This is pharmaphorum web editor Nicole Raleigh, and I'm here today live on site at Veeva Commercial Summit 2024 in Madrid. And with me is Jonathan Crowther, who is Head of Predictive Analytics at Pfizer. And we'll be discussing the role of AI in the life sciences today. So to kick things off then, Jonathan, how does your organisation think about AI in healthcare today?
It's a big question. AI in healthcare today is really comprising of three things. Firstly, it depends on what type of AI. So are we looking at supervised, unsupervised, or even knowledge-based learning? From that, we want to make sure that we deliver things that are ethical and also accessible for our patients. Secondly, we want to make sure that we fuel growth and we fuel kind of productivity within our teams and our colleagues so that it's as efficient as possible. And then thirdly, it's really about innovating in the space and how can we actually try and make breakthroughs that change patients' lives.
Thank you. So if we think of your specific role, what impact does AI have there, or what type of AI has an impact within that role?
Within our role, so I lead up the predictive analytics group, and I play a role in the value chain for clinical trials and clinical operations. So for us, primarily, it's really about how do we identify opportunities in creating HCP physician segments. How do we create segments of different types of clinical trial sites? So that could be looking at who would be a logistic leader, right? Who would be a patient pioneer, and who would be more suited to the type of portfolio or the asset that we might be looking at as a portfolio investigation. So our team is really playing with a lot of various different types of data sources, and then trying to really understand what kind of insight, what value can we get from that data. AI basically has accelerated that for us. So we can get our hands on huge amounts of data, extract very, very quickly classified data, structure it, and then also be able to bring that into models. So really it's helped us build models faster.
Okay, so if we think about deep data now, how is Pfizer using deep data with AI? Specifically, for the purpose of this conversation, Veeva Link Key People data.
Yeah, so leveraging deep data, I think like all biopharma, is a critical priority in the analytics strategy. So for us, primarily, again, I would talk about clinical operations. It's about building those personas. You know, how can we classify different PIs, sites, etc., into the right persona so that essentially we can actually build better strategies with data and then inform our clinical study teams. Another part of what it can do is actually help us with the master data management. So that's a huge problem. We don't know sometimes how dirty or clean our data sets are internally and externally. So leveraging something like Link People really helps us, because essentially we have another source that we can verify against our own data. So when we have a master data management algorithm, we can actually make it, a much more informed decision and actually start to take some of the manual lift that our teams are applying to the data and automate it so that the human in the loop is coming in just to verify and validate what we're doing. So that's super important for us. Then the other value add is really the publications and the presentations or congresses, because essentially that's more data where we can start to do social listening. We can start to see who's saying what are they saying? And I often think about how can we identify very interesting compounds that maybe our competitors are using or bringing into the market that we're not aware of, and how do our compounds look compared to those? And then secondly then is actually bringing all that in to start to do social network mapping. So how can I know friends of yours might actually be people we know, and then how do we actually use them within our clinical trial strategy as well?
Thank you. So you've mentioned a couple of times now this word strategy. Specifically, how does Veeva Link data support your AI strategy? Yeah,
so the vast array of data that's available within that data source for us is incredibly valuable. They've taken all the heavy lift out of the linking, out of the connecting the dots, etc. So essentially what that allows us to do is focus on what's really important, which is building the models, identifying the key features, and then trying to bring as much of that valuable insight to study teams, to commercial teams, and even to medical affairs. So for us, the Veeva Link data just provides a much more efficient way for us to get to the valuable insight just in time.
Thank you. So you're actually going to be discussing all this on a panel tomorrow, discussing how Pfizer is using deep data by using Veeva Link Key People data to uncover new customer insights, transform analytics, and drive customer-centric business processes. So if we take everything together, in your opinion, what are the key considerations for biopharmas intending to use AI?
Yeah, you pinged off the key word. The strategy is the most important for us. And I think it's a big buzzword, which we use quite a lot. But I often think sometimes just because we can do it doesn't always mean we should. Mm-hmm. So for us, I think we need to define very, very good use cases. And we need to make sure that we're very clear about the KPIs and the ROI for applying AI into some of these use cases. And then from that, we should also start to think about, hey, we don't need to boil the ocean, as they say. I think we need to sit back and say, let's start small. So from a strategic perspective, I think being a bit more tactical at times, saying, okay, we have a small project here. How can we bring value to that? Be very clear about the KPIs we want to achieve so that we set the right expectations with leaders when we apply AI. And the other thing I would say is also having the right people. So a lot of the times we tend to have the business throw the idea to the technology groups. Mm-hmm. And that becomes an issue because then we lose that really nuanced message between the two groups. So technical will build a very good algorithm, but it doesn't really suit the need of the business. So by making sure we have the right people on the team and they're working together, I think is key. Another part which I think is critical to the Veeva Link piece is also looking at our partnerships. We would love to be able to build it all, but I don't think that's always necessarily the right thing. So we need to think about how do we partner, who our partners are, and then how do we get the most out of those partnerships.
So to wrap it all up, what's of the future of AI? How will it evolve? And how can pharma keep up with the speed of change of that evolution?
Yeah, so if we think about it, it's the first time we've seen a technology implementation that's end-to-end. So we've seen the acceleration happening in drug discovery, and we've started to see where this is going to evolve in terms of a clinical operations space, and we're definitely seeing today at some of the talks how this is really going to accelerate the commercial side. In my view, what I think is really going to happen is the integration of a multi-agent framework. So how can we actually help the business build systems that actually take away the laborious work, answer some of the deep questions, and then leave you and I to focus on what's really important, which is developing what is the right thing for us to do. And the second thing I think is the implementation of causal AI. So a lot of the times we're building solutions and creating these great outputs, but we don't really know what the cause and effect is. So causal AI really will help us get to that understanding. What are the confounding factors that might be driving the effect? So if we think about customer segmentation, if we think about simulations even, what's really driving what we're seeing? And can we actually leverage that to be able to make better decisions in the future? And then the last thing I would think about are small language models. I think we'll see a big growth of that over the next couple of years, because what that will help us achieve is something that's much more relevant and much more contextual for the type of business we're in. So for instance, we'll have a small language model dedicated to commercial and knows everything about that space. We don't need a huge language model that knows everything about astronomy, talking about the commercial space. So in my view, I think making things more relevant, more contextual will help us build bots and agents and even solutions that will basically make our lives a lot easier and provide much faster insight to the data that we have at our fingertips.
Thank you, Jonathan, for those insights. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.